Russia has threatened Finland and asked them not to join NATO. The consequences will be the same as for Ukraine if Finland joins NATO. The reason is a no-brainer: NATO's expansion near the Russian border means a threat to them. Therefore, Russia has decided not to allow any of its surrounding countries, i.e., Finland, Ukraine, and Sweden, to join NATO. Helsinki, which shares a more than 800-mile border with Russia, may be particularly concerned about Russian threats. Since 1918, Russia and the Soviet Union have invaded Finland 3 times. If Russia attacks Finland as well, that means the war will escalate to greater lengths, as Finland is also a member of the European Union. Finland's top leadership has stated that it will decide within weeks whether it will join NATO or not. That will be an important decision and will let Russia decide whether to invade Finland or not. Russia would face an unparalleled struggle if Finland joined NATO. A nearly continuous land border with NATO stretching from Ukraine to the Arctic Circle is a game-changer. An important thing to ponder on in all this is how will NATO react if Russia invades Finland. Until now, its reaction regarding Ukraine's invasion has not been so aggressive except for the sanctions and military and economic assistance to Ukraine. In such a case, NATO, or at least certain NATO members, would very certainly react violently. Even though Sweden and Finland are not full members of NATO, they maintain a close relationship with the alliance and are participating in several other tight alliances. The issue that Finland might face is that Finland is not a member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. As a result, Finland will be unable to use NATO Article 5 for collective defense. However, Finland belongs to the European Union. As a result, it has the legal authority to demand Article 42(7) of the Treaty on the European Union. As a result of which, other European Union members may be asked to defend Finland. NATO members such as Germany and France are included. Theoretically, other NATO countries that are not members of the EU include the United States and Turkey. Staying neutral is an option. Even though NATO members like France, Germany, and Poland would now be at odds with Russia, they would not be able to trigger Article 5 because they would have joined the war on their own. If we contemplate NATO's reaction to Ukraine's war, they are supporting Ukraine in every possible way, but on the stance of sending its troops, they had denied it. The reason is that Ukraine is not a NATO member. However, if they were members of NATO before the war had started, the results could have been different. US would have sent its troops to join war alongside Ukraine against Russia. But since the war has started, US has made its eastern part of the alliance on NATO territory strong, increasing its presence there. NATO countries are concerned that if their troops face Russian forces in Ukraine, it will result in an all-out war between the two chevaliers. NATO members said they are committed to doing everything we can to help Ukraine, but they must keep the conflict from spreading beyond its boundaries. This is why NATO decided against enforcing a no-fly zone over Ukraine. The United States already has some 90,000 troops in Europe, the majority of whom are located in Germany, and is planning to deploy more after Ukraine's war. Also, NATO and US have clearly stated that we will be involved if Russian President Vladimir Putin moves into NATO countries. Considering the current predicament, Finland may try its best to be a member of NATO. It will strengthen them. In case of any invasion, NATO will fight the war alongside them. But in case of not being a member of NATO, they might have to fight the Russian forces alone, just like Ukraine, with the military and economic assistance of the EU and NATO. Even if Finland joins the NATO or not, results in both scenarios will be severe. How has Finland prepared in case of war with Russia? Finland will be prepared if Europe's greatest fears come true and the turmoil in Ukraine spills across the continent to Russia's neighboring neighbors. It is stocked. All major fuels and foodstuffs are kept in strategic reserves for at least 6 months, while pharmaceutical companies are required to keep 3 to 10 months worth of imported pharmaceuticals on hand. As per their strategy, they will comprise civilian defenses. Large buildings will have bomb shelters, underground parking will be used as well, and ice rinks and swimming pools to be converted into an evacuation center. It also has fighters. Finland has one of the largest militaries in Europe relative to its size, with about a third of the adult population serving in the reserves. So where does actually war seem to be heading towards? The fact that NATO has made it clear that it would not intervene in the crisis, either by sending soldiers or imposing a no-fly zone over Ukraine, has ruled out another scenario, Russia suffering a complete military loss. As a result, the war appears to be going toward one of two possible outcomes, a peace treaty or a protracted struggle that is going to expand from Ukraine to Finland and so on. The consequences definitely will be horrible in terms of the war expanding to Finland. But it's still uncertain what's going to happen.